Welcome back to Black History in Photos, where we bring you the real, unsanitized photos America doesn't want you to see. Please subscribe to us and leave a like. This tells the algorithm we are building a great movement. They don't teach you this in school, but after the Civil War, black soldiers and militias fought armed battles against the Ku Klux Klan and won. While white politicians looked the other way and white law enforcement joined the Klan, black men took up arms to defend their communities. These weren't just victims of terrorism. They were warriors who fought back and crushed Klan power in multiple states. Today, I'm showing you 15 photographs that prove black people have always defended themselves with force when necessary. This is the history of black resistance they erased. Number 15. The United States colored troops after the war. This photograph from 1866, preserved in the National Archives, shows members of the United States colored troops who remained in the South after the Civil War ended. These soldiers, who had fought to end slavery, now faced a new enemy, the Ku Klux Klan, formed by Confederate veterans who couldn't accept defeat. Over 180,000 black men served in the Union Army during the Civil War. When the war ended, many of these soldiers stayed in the South or returned to their home communities. They were trained, disciplined, and armed. They knew how to fight, and they weren't about to let white terrorists undo what they had fought for. Number 14. Black militias in Reconstruction. This photograph from 1868, held in the Library of Congress, shows a black militia unit in South Carolina during Reconstruction. Southern states organized black militias to maintain order and protect black communities from Klan violence. These militias were legal, state-sanctioned military units composed of black men, often led by black officers. They drilled regularly, maintained weapons, and responded to threats against black communities. They were the only force standing between black families and Klan terrorism. Black militias patrolled black neighborhoods, guarded polling places during elections, and confronted Klan members who threatened violence. They weren't vigilantes. They were official state military units doing what law enforcement refused to do, protecting black citizens. White Southerners hated these militias because they represented black power backed by force. White newspapers called them threats to public order. White politicians worked to disband them. But for several years during Reconstruction, black militias were a powerful force that kept the Klan in check. Number 13. The Battle of Liberty Place. This photograph from 1874, archived in the New Orleans Public Library, shows the aftermath of the Battle of Liberty Place, where black militia members and white Republicans fought against white supremacist insurgents trying to overthrow Louisiana's Reconstruction government. The White League, a paramilitary organization even more violent than the Klan, attempted a coup in New Orleans. They were met by the Metropolitan Police, which included many black officers and black militia units. A pitched battle erupted in the streets of New Orleans. Number 12. Armed black communities in Mississippi. This photograph from 1875, held in the Mississippi Department of Archives, shows black men in Mississippi armed and organized to defend their community from Klan attacks. In counties across Mississippi, black communities organized armed self-defense groups. When the Klan rode into black neighborhoods to terrorize families, they sometimes found armed black men waiting for them. Gunfights erupted. Klan members were killed or driven off. Black communities proved they wouldn't be terrorized without fighting back. Number 11. The Colfax Massacre Resistance. This photograph from 1873, preserved in the National Archives, shows the courthouse in Colfax, Louisiana, where black militia members made a stand against white supremacist attackers. Though they were ultimately overwhelmed and massacred, they fought back fiercely. Black Republicans in Colfax had won local elections, and white Democrats refused to accept the results. They organized a paramilitary force to overthrow the elected government. Black militia members fortified the courthouse and prepared to defend it. Number 10. Black veterans protecting polling places. This photograph from 1868, archived in the Library of Congress, shows black veterans standing guard at a polling place in South Carolina. During Reconstruction, black men voted in large numbers, and black veterans protected polling places from Klan intimidation. The Klan tried to prevent black people from voting through threats, violence, and intimidation. They would gather near polling places, armed and threatening. But black veterans organized armed guards at polling places, ensuring that black voters could exercise their rights safely. Number 9. The Hamburg Massacre Resistance. This photograph from 1876, held in the South Carolina Department of Archives, shows the site of the Hamburg Massacre, where black militia members fought against white supremacist attackers before being overwhelmed and murdered. The Hamburg Massacre began when white men demanded that a black militia unit apologize for blocking a road during a parade. The militia refused. White supremacists gathered hundreds of armed men and attacked the militia's armory. Black militia members fought back, defending their position for hours. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they inflicted casualties on the attackers. When they finally ran out of ammunition and tried to escape, many were captured and executed. The Hamburg Massacre was one of many instances where black military resistance was crushed by overwhelming white force. But the fact that it took hundreds of armed white men to defeat a small black militia unit shows the effectiveness of black armed resistance. Number 8. Robert Smalls and Black Political Power. This photograph from 1874, preserved in the Library of Congress, shows Robert Smalls, the former slave who stole a Confederate ship during the Civil War and later became a congressman. Smalls organized black militias and armed resistance against the Klan in South Carolina. As a state legislator and later congressman, Smalls used his political power to support black militias and armed self-defense. He understood that black political power needed to be backed by black military power, or white supremacists would simply use violence to overthrow black political gains. Number 7. The End of Reconstruction and Disarmament. This photograph from 1877, archived in the National Archives, shows federal troops withdrawing from the South, marking the end of Reconstruction. With federal protection gone, white supremacists moved to disarm black communities and crush black militias. The Compromise of 1877 ended Reconstruction. In exchange for resolving a disputed presidential election, federal troops withdrew from the South. Black militias were disbanded. Black communities were left defenseless against white terrorism. Number 6. The Wilmington Coup and Black Resistance. This photograph from 1898, held in the North Carolina State Archives, shows the aftermath of the Wilmington coup, where white supremacists overthrew a legitimately elected biracial government. Black residents fought back but were overwhelmed by superior numbers and firepower. Wilmington, North Carolina had a thriving black middle class and a biracial government. White supremacists couldn't tolerate this, so they organized a coup. They gathered armed men, attacked black neighborhoods, and overthrew the government. Black residents fought back. Gunfights erupted throughout the city. Black men defended their homes and businesses, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. White supremacists had machine guns and overwhelming force. Dozens of black people were killed. Thousands fled the city. Black property was destroyed. The coup succeeded, and white supremacy was reimposed. But black people didn't submit without a fight. They resisted with arms until they were overwhelmed. Number 5. Black World War. One veterans return home. This photograph from 1919, preserved in the National Archives, shows Black World War I veterans returning home to the South. These men had fought for democracy in Europe, and they weren't about to accept terrorism at home. The Red Summer of 1919 saw race riots and massacres across America, but in many cases, black veterans fought back. They had military training, combat experience, and weapons. They organized armed defense of black neighborhoods. In cities across America, black veterans stood guard in black neighborhoods, armed and ready to defend their communities. When white mobs attacked, they met armed resistance. In several cities, this armed resistance prevented massacres. White authorities responded by arresting black veterans for defending themselves, charging them with inciting riots, and working to disarm black communities. The message was clear. Black people weren't allowed to defend themselves, even when facing murderous white mobs. Number 4. The Deacons for Defense. This photograph from 1965, archived in the Library of Congress, shows members of the Deacons for Defense and Justice, an armed black self-defense organization that protected civil rights workers and black communities from Klan violence in Louisiana and Mississippi. The Deacons for Defense were founded by black veterans who were tired of nonviolent civil rights workers being beaten and killed. While police did nothing, they armed themselves, patrolled black neighborhoods, and provided armed escorts for civil rights workers. Number 3. Robert F. Williams and Armed Self-Defense. This photograph from 1959, held in the Library of Congress, shows Robert F. Williams, NAACP chapter president in Monroe, North Carolina, who advocated for armed self-defense and organized black veterans to protect their community from Klan attacks. Williams, a Marine Corps veteran, organized black veterans into an armed guard that protected black neighborhoods. When the Klan attempted a motorcade through the black community to intimidate residents, Williams and his armed guards met them with gunfire. The Klan fled and never returned. Williams was eventually forced into exile after being falsely accused of kidnapping, but his advocacy for armed self-defense influenced the Black Power movement and inspired other black communities to organize armed resistance. Williams represented a tradition of black armed resistance that stretched back to Reconstruction, the understanding that black people have the right and the responsibility to defend themselves with force when necessary. Number 2. The Black Panther Party, Armed Patrols. This photograph from 1967, preserved in the Library of Congress, shows Black Panther Party members conducting armed patrols in Oakland, California. The Panthers carried weapons openly and monitored police to prevent brutality against black people. The Black Panthers understood that police were the modern equivalent of the Klan, armed white men terrorizing black communities with impunity. They organized armed patrols, following police and observing their interactions with black citizens. California law at the time allowed open carry of firearms. The Panthers used this law to arm themselves legally and to assert their right to self-defense. Their armed presence deterred some police brutality and empowered black communities. The response from white authorities was swift and severe. California passed gun control laws specifically to disarm the Panthers. The FBI launched a campaign to destroy the organization. Armed black resistance was crushed through legal and illegal means. Number 1. The legacy of armed black resistance. This final photograph from 1970, archived in the Schomburg Center, shows a community meeting where black people discuss armed self-defense. This image represents the continuous tradition of black armed resistance from Reconstruction through the Civil Rights era. Black people have always understood that rights without the power to defend them are meaningless. From Reconstruction militias to the Deacons for defense to the Black Panthers, black people have organized armed resistance when faced with terrorism and violence. This tradition of armed self-defense is deliberately erased from history books. White America wants to portray black people as passive victims who were saved by white benevolence and nonviolent protest. They don't want to acknowledge that black people fought back with force and that armed resistance was often effective. The truth is that every gain black people made was backed by the threat or reality of armed resistance. The Klan's power was broken not by laws or speeches, but by black soldiers and militias who fought back. Civil rights workers survived in the Deep South because armed black men protected them. Now let me tell you why this history matters so much and why they worked so hard to erase it. White supremacy depends on the myth that black people are passive, that we accept oppression, that we wait for white people to grant us rights. But the truth is that black people have always fought back, have always resisted, have always been willing to use force to defend ourselves and our communities. Every time black people organized armed resistance, white supremacy responded by changing the laws, disarming black communities, and crushing black military power. After Reconstruction, they disbanded black militias and passed laws prohibiting black gun ownership. After the Black Panthers, they passed gun control laws and launched FBI operations to destroy black armed organizations. White supremacy can't tolerate armed black resistance because armed black resistance works. The Klan couldn't operate in areas where black communities were armed and organized. Police brutality decreased in areas where the Black Panthers conducted armed patrols. Armed black resistance saved lives and protected communities. But white history books erase this tradition because acknowledging it would mean acknowledging that black people have always had the power to defend ourselves, that we don't need white saviors, that we can and will fight back when necessary. They want us to forget that our ancestors were warriors who crushed the Klan's power through force of arms. We are the descendants of soldiers who fought the Klan and won. We carry their courage, their determination, their willingness to fight for freedom. We honor them by remembering the truth, by refusing to accept the sanitized version of history that erases black resistance. Our ancestors were warriors, and that warrior spirit lives in us. Nobody can take that away.